strangers from distant lands, friends of old, it's already off the rails. Welcome back to Balrogs and Blasters, fantasy, sci-fi, and everything in between. My name is Sam, and with me as always is Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, and in advance I'd like to apologise for my audio. It is poor.
This is the first time that we have apologised in advance for audio problems. We will not be making a habit of it. Okay, so we've got a good few bits and pieces of news this week. We've got a few trailers that have come out. We've got some information about 4K home releases of The Abyss. We've got information on the DCU. We've got some things that we've been watching this week as well that we're going to talk about. Some unfortunate RIPs as well. And then we're going to finish up this week's episode by talking about the new release of No One Will Save You. Well, that was pretty
good.
Pretty dramatic. Oh. Yeah. The fact that they didn't have something like that at the start of the film is... Actually, let's start with that. Would you appreciate if at the start of every film, instead of having a title sequence, there was just like a person saying the name of the film?
I think I'd get very fed up with that very quickly.
Oh, really? You know, you're just like a guy saying, "The Three Musketeers."
No.
Okay.
This is not a trailer.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I do miss when they used to say the name of the film in the trailer, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so let's kick things off for proper. I would like to talk about the fact that James Cameron's The Abyss is coming out on 4K home release. Yes. Now, I want to preface that by saying we know that it is coming soon, which in the world of James Cameron means basically nothing. It could mean that it's coming out 5 years from now. It could mean that it's coming out tomorrow. We just don't know with this man. Yeah,
and do we know if it's the theatrical cut or the director's cut?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I would say it would have to be the director's cut, because I'm assuming all of this is being done kind of off his own back. So I'd say that it's going to be the one that he's the most comfortable with, which I'd say would be the director's cut.
Yeah. I had the director's cut, a copy of it that I recorded off TV years ago. It's the only way you could get it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Despite the fact that nearly all the cast nearly died on the set. Most of them drowned. Some of them froze themselves. I didn't realise in the director's cut as well that there's boobies. I didn't know that. There's a little bit of boobie. It's a very traumatic scene, and it'd be a hard one to go at, but it's there. But yeah, it's a fantastic film, one of my favourite films of all time. Really love it. Fantastic. I'll call him a villain with what's his name, Bean.
Oh yeah, with his under ocean madness.
Ocean madness. Yeah, it's like a SpongeBob episode. Yeah, he knocked it out of the park with that. I really like. He started off as he's a bit of a hard ass, and then he just went completely off the rails. Loved the whole progression of his psychosis through the whole film.
Are you talking about Michael Biehn or James Cameron?
Yeah, a lot of those actors refused to work with him again after that. Yeah.
I'm not surprised by that at all. Like, even the fact that I didn't even realize that. So this is for anyone who's watched it. They obviously filled the diving suits with that fluid in the helmet. I always assumed that was like that was just a practical effect where it was just a layer in front of them that was being filled up. But it was, in fact, just filling up their helmet with this liquid. Like, ridiculous. A ridiculous choice. And so many choices that obviously make the film like a really impressive like sci-fi spectacle. But you can just see, like, having heard about the stuff that goes on in the background, you just see it happening, just like, why does he do these things? Like, this is some Kubrickian nonsense.
Yeah. But yeah, looking forward to that. Hopefully we get a timeline soon. It's one of those things that's on Blu-ray.com. The site that has all the releases it comes up all the time. People asking on the forums when is it coming? When's it coming? So looking forward to this.
Yeah, it should be good. Let's continue to tell James Cameron that he's making all the right decisions.
Well, no, I can't. I watched Avatar 2 the other day, and I got about halfway through it, and I realised there's still another 2 hours to go, and it was just soul destroying. I don't understand the love for those films. I don't understand why people are throwing money at this film. So James Cameron, is he a genius? No, I think not. He's been very lucky recently with people just backing him for, I have no idea why.
Yeah, I think I haven't watched Avatar 2 yet, but when I do, I will watch it the way that it was intended, 15 minutes at a time on my phone before I go to sleep. Across about 2 weeks is the plan. But let's stop talking about James Cameron. Let's talk about the DCU, because we got some information dressed up as not really information, with James Gunn talking about what's canon and what's not, because there's been a lot of confusion, understandably so, about in this last final slate of DCEU films, like the likes of Aquaman 2 and Blue Beetle and Shazam 2, like what's canon and what's not, like what's continuing on, because we knew that there were certain actors who were coming back to the DCU playing the same characters as they were playing in the DCEU, but that was really all we knew. And Mr. Gunn has come out and he's essentially clarified that there are going to be actors coming back playing the same characters, but they're not going to be a continuation of the stories that were told in the DCEU. So what, as an example, so John Cena is coming back as Peacemaker, but Peacemaker Season 1 and Peacemaker Season 2, which hasn't come out yet, are both going to be non-canonical to the new DCEU. The same is going to be said of, I'm really sorry about the pronunciation of this name, Zola Maridueña, who played Blue Beetle, Viola Davis, who's coming back as, oh my goodness, I've completely forgotten her character's name. Amanda Waller. Yeah. Amanda Waller, yep. And Freddie Stromer coming back as Vigilante. From the
thank God.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Freddie Stromer was a revelation in that TV series. Yeah. So on Blue Beetle, are we saying that's not canonical because it's fairly generic superhero action film, and there was nothing that happened in that would affect the DCU? I would say, and this is fairly cynical, if the film had done better, I'd say they'd maybe tie it in more. So I think, as you say, it is kind of not connected to the larger DC universe in any way, other than the fact that they mention other superheroes. But like, you could slot that in wherever, really. And I would say if it had done a bit better, maybe they'd tie in a bit closer. But I think it's easier just to say it's not part of it. So it sounds like they're saying it's, Blue Beetle will be in the DCU and it will be played by Mr. Maridueña, but it won't be the continuation of what he's done in the Blue Beetle film. Well, yeah, there's no big loss there. The family, though, I would hope would get carried over as well. The love interest, whatever her name is, can't even remember her name.
Jenny Court,
Beetle's daughter, was that her? Yeah. She, she didn't really leave much of an impression. But does this mean that we won't be getting the sequel where she goes to find her dad?
That is an excellent question. I would say, I have no idea, to be honest. I think it would be a good shout, because I did like the idea that there was already an existing Blue Beetle in this universe, and it was Ted Kord, and he had the old costume, and then he had basically what I'm assuming is like either he's just lost somewhere on Earth, or he's in like a Ant-Man style quantum realm situation for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to see that kind of idea continued. But is that just going to make things more confusing? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they kind of pull that off. But according to James Gunn, nothing is canon until Creature Commandos comes out. So, but interestingly, I think the interesting exemption from, or sorry, not exemption, the interesting omission from what he was talking about was that Jason Momoa wasn't even mentioned. So there was even kind of suspicions that he was either going to come back as Aquaman, or he was going to come back maybe as like Lobo or someone like that. This seems to suggest that he's not coming back as Aquaman, at least. Like, he may be coming back as someone else, but
Yeah, and do we get any word on the Viola Davis, Amanda Waller TV series that was supposed to be spinning off from Peacemaker?
I don't think so. I don't think there was anything mentioned on it. If there was, I completely overlooked it. But the fact that they're doing, I think, like, they're doing Peacemaker season 2 because Peacemaker was obviously really, really popular, and they want to kind of continue that on. But, like, yeah, I don't know if maybe they'd roll something like that into just a separate story.
Yeah.
In the DCU, maybe. That would be my expectation.
Okay.
But other than that, that's not the only superhero that we're talking about this week, Patrick, because we also got a teaser for Toxic Avenger.
A little tiny Toxic Avenger.
A little teaser for Toxic Avenger.
No, a little tiny Toxic Avenger.
Are you saying that because he's played by Peter Dinklage?
Yes.
I see.
And from the one still that we got of him standing in the doorway, I kind of thought it was going to be Peter Dinklage as a human, and then like a huge person as the Toxic Avenger. But they seem to have gone with Peter Dinklage as the actual Toxic Avenger, which is cool. I look forward. Yeah,
like I mean, you can always change the scale of anyone. Like, obviously, we've seen Peter Dinklage play like an enormous dwarf in Infinity War, so it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do with kind of the scale of him. But this is a fun one for me because, like, I don't really know anything about Toxic Avenger. My only passing understanding of Toxic Avenger is that it was originally made by Troma, where James Gunn used to work, and that is pretty much the extent of my knowledge. I know it's a real cult favorite. As of this point in my life, I haven't gone back to revisit it. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, I've watched it numerous times, and the cartoon series as well.
I didn't even know there was a cartoon series.
Toxic Avenger, Toxic Avenger. That's basically the theme tune.
That was great. I'm hooked already.
No, it's great. It wasn't great, but it was definitely of a time, back when Rick Moranis was doing, what was that, Grave School High and things like that.
Yeah.
Lots of TV and movie tie-ins, but yeah, it was something. But yeah, the original, it's pure schlock, pure. I wouldn't even call it B movie. It was a C movie, but very, very much very fun. It was a very fun time. Gross. Everything that I really liked about it, I saw it when I was a child, and I still like watching it every now and again. But yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Okay, all right. I'm definitely excited for it just because it seems so different to what we've seen before, and also because it's directed by Mason Blair, who worked on Green Room and Blue Ruin, which are films that I really enjoy, and also he directed I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore with Elijah Wood, who's also in this. Like, the stills of him in this are just
as the Penguin,
horrendous looking. Yeah, basically, I was going to say like either that or Green or Wormtongue. Like somewhere in between the two of those, he looks all puffy and pale, and then Kevin Bacon's in it as well, which is always a nice change of pace.
He's the industrialist, is he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The evil industrialist. Actually, I have no idea if he is the industrialist, but I assume so. And if we keep in the trailer vein, we also got a trailer for Fingernails, which is like a sci-fi romantic movie that's coming out, and I only mention it just because it had real kind of Eternal Sunshine, Ruby Sparks kind of vibes, and I don't think I've seen a film like that recently that I've really enjoyed, but it's nice to see that kind of, I don't know what you call it, like a rom-sci as opposed to a rom-com, like that kind of vibe,
right?
Like that kind of thing. It's got Jesse Buckley in it, and it's got Riz Ahmed in it, and it's got Luke Wilson and the Bear from The Bear. But it's this idea that
the Bear from The Bear.
The Bear from The Bear, yeah. Carmine from The Bear, not the bear.
Oh,
not the actual bear.
Sorry, I had a brain fart there, and I was confusing this with Cocaine Bear. I was like, the bear from Cocaine Bear. I'd watch that.
But he's clean.
he's just trying to get his kids back.
Yeah, and it's basically this idea that they've turned romantic love into this measurable scientific exercise in order to determine who is the best fit in a relationship and if a couple will last. And it could be good. I've got high hopes that it could be good, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm hoping it's at that kind of eternal sunshine level, which is always a nice one to go for.
Yeah, while we're talking about trailers there, I think we have to talk about Argyle.
Oh my goodness!
Completely slapped me in the face. I did not realize what type of movie this was. I really thought it was not a straight, but like a spy thriller centering on Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
what we got instead completely changed my expectation for this movie.
Yeah, so before we got any kind of a teaser or anything, there was just the only information or official synopsis we had was that this was a Matthew Vaughn movie. Matthew Vaughn, who directed the Kingsman movies and Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class, and it was described as this spy thriller, as you say, with Henry Cavill as Agent Argyle. But then you watch the trailer, and then what you realize is that it's actually about Bryce Dallas Howard, who is the writer of these Argyle spy novels, and how she is basically brought out of her kind of comfortable artistic world and brought into this world of real life spies. And there's this suggestion that her books have been predicting the outcomes in real life espionage, so they've kind of brought her in.
Yeah, kind of like she's psychically connected to the whoever is the real Argyle.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's got kind of like, I thought you'd like it because I know you're a big fan of Castle, so I know that you always like it when law enforcement brings in a novelist to get things going.
That's one of my top tropes, is people who have absolutely no business helping the police or international spy agencies come in and help them out, and not only help them out but are integral to everything that's happening with this team. But yeah, it's great. We got Sam Rockwell, and he does rock well indeed. I love him, absolutely amazing. The John Cena's in it.
He is,
but he's part of the fictional Argyle universe within it. Yeah, from what I can see. We have Bryce Dallas Howard. We have lots of famous people in it. It did give me kind of vibes of that Sandra Bullock film that came out last year with Channing Tatum, where she was the author, and then what she's researched for her books turns out that it leads to a lost treasure, and she gets kidnapped.
Oh, it had like Romancing the Stone kind of vibes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Brad Pitt was in it as well.
I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, but I know exactly the one you mean, and like that's always kind of as you say, like it's always kind of a fun trope, especially when it blends in with that, bringing a non-detective into a detective situation. It reminded me of
The Lost City. Sorry. Yes.
Nope, that's great. That was what I was searching for on my computer anyway, so you saved me a job. What was I going to say? Yeah, what was the Raven, like the John Cusack, Edgar Allan Poe vehicle, where he was helping solve crimes because people were committing crimes based on his stories,
which is just rip off Castle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's basically just pale, unhealthy Castle.
Yeah, I think the two of us are the only people who've ever seen that movie. In all fairness.
We should definitely. Well, I think that's the perfect reason to do like a movie commentary for it.
definitely. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to this. It came. I'm a big fan of Henry Cavill. I was happy to see him doing something in the near future, but this has just elevated it to the next level. So I'm very interested in it.
The only thing I'm worried about is that Henry Cavill is one of those actors that I could just look at him forever. He's a good looking man. I enjoy looking at him, but that hair that he's got in the trailer is profoundly upsetting.
But now the hair sort of makes sense that it's part of this literature world that doesn't really exist in the real world. Whoever the real Argyle is, I'm sure doesn't have that kind of hair. Well, maybe they do. We'll see. But yeah, I know you're a big fan of Henry Cavill, and your wallpaper on your phone most likely is him as the Witcher in the bath. So
joke's on you. It's just regular Henry Cavill in the bath. So there.
Brilliant. And then one that I missed, a trailer I missed this week was Zorro. What is this?
Yes.
What's this about? Is this Antonio Banderas? If it's not, I don't want to hear.
Not.
Stop talking.
Is, I will just say that it's a Spanish language TV show because it's a Spanish TV show that's basically a reboot of Zorro.
Oh.
And you seem disappointed.
I do, because it feels like another one of these. Because of the writer's strike, we're getting these TV shows and films filmed outside the US.
Yeah.
To fill voids and stuff that we would never see normally are being promoted because they have gaps in their scheduling. But I could be completely wrong. As I said, I haven't watched this trailer, but I as you know, I have a real problem with action TV and films that are heavily subtitled. I don't have the ability to focus on one or on both at the same time. It has to be one or the other. So I either miss out on all the dialogue or I miss out on all the action, and that's just the way my brain is wired up.
Wow. So Patrick hates foreign films.
I do. I do. It says it on my t-shirt.
It says Balrogs and Blasters, and then in small brackets, Patrick hates foreign films.
Squid Games is rubbish.
So I think that was all the trailers that happened this week. We also had the unfortunate news, very, very sad news, Patrick, and I know you'll be sad about this. Hellboy, the new video game, has been pushed back to the 18th of October. I'm just kidding. We're sad because Michael Gambon's dead.
Oh, yeah. Poor Michael Gambon. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen him in anything. But, yeah. He was always there. He was always there. Like, there's so many films that he's been in that... it's hard to go through them all. I'm just looking, like, I know.
I can literally feel you like scrolling, like it's hard to go
scrolling through because
IMDb loads.
Because there's a huge amount here, but I was just trying to see what the last thing I watched him in was, and unfortunately, it was Dad's Army.
Really?
I was hoping it was something else, but no, it was definitely that Dad's Army was the last thing I watched him in.
I think the last thing I watched him in was weirdly like Gosford Park, which I hadn't ever watched before, and I saw it on Netflix, and I thought, oh, I'll give that a go. And sure enough, there's Michael Gambon being just a proper rich knob. But he was, like, in terms of, like, the stuff that we'd cover on this podcast, obviously one of his bigger roles kind of later in his life was in the later Harry Potter movies. I think he, after Richard Harris died, he took over from him. Interestingly, I was talking to my wife about this because, as you know, my wife is a very big Harry Potter fan. And even though this was after Michael Gambon had died, I said, what was your opinion on him as Dumbledore? She was like, I preferred Richard Harris. Like, I think that he had a better idea of what Dumbledore was like compared to Michael Gambon, and made the call, which I think a lot of people do, which is in the Goblet of Fire movie, where he basically like runs at Harry Potter and shouts at him like, why should you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Even though that was not apparently what the book was intended.
Yeah.
But apparently, he took it in a different direction. But I was a big fan of him in the Harry Potter movies. I thought he was a cool Dumbledore who didn't give a crap. Yeah, didn't give a crap about kids. Didn't give a crap about anybody.
Yeah, and just a big shout out. He was born in Cabra.
Was he Dublin. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So he's an Irish boy.
Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah. That's a handy little fact we got there.
Yeah, but definitely last thing I saw him in was Dad's Army. I kind of enjoyed that. It wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't a great movie. It was just a movie. But I also had fond memories of the TV series.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and of course we can't forget Michael Gambon's most famous role, which was, of course, in by Captain in the World of Tomorrow as Mr. Paley, editor of the New York Chronicle newspaper.
Okay, I did not realize he was in.
What are you talking about,
loved
Patrick? Sky Captain of the World Tomorrow is your favourite film of all time.
I love that film. I watch it all the time.
Do you really?
Unironically, yeah. I
was
really
making
love
an
it.
ironic joke.
No, I really like Sky Captain of the World Tomorrow.
Not enough that you remember Mr. Paley, though, clearly.
He must have only been in it for about 30 seconds. I can't remember.
Well, unfortunately, this Wikipedia page does not tell me how much he's in the film, so I'll just have to...
You need to go to www.howlongwassomeoneinamovie.com /
Gambon-Michael.
No, but it is very, very sad news. Like, he was 82 years old, so he had a good life, but 82 seems young nowadays for people to die.
I think it also seems very young for actors as well, because I think we've just gotten used to actors continuing on well past the regular retirement age for any other job.
Yeah.
And like, even, we've talked about before, like Harrison Ford being in stuff now, Michael Caine being in stuff now, people like Judi Dench and Maggie Smith, who are like, they're prestige actors who've been acting for a very long time and are just kind of masters of their craft. But also, anytime I see them on screen at the moment, I'm like, I really hate the idea that you want to retire but can't, because you're trapped in like a lifestyle that doesn't allow you to stop working. Or is it, my hope is that they just keep doing it because they love it.
Yeah.
But like, it must be such like a strain, both physically and mentally, to be doing these kind of shoots and stuff like that. Like, it can't be the easiest thing to do for someone of any age, I suppose, but even less so for someone who's in their mid-80s.
Yeah.
Like Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Because he's old. Moving on. Patrick
Stewart, what's he complaining about these days?
Patrick Stewart. Well, Patrick Stewart has a book out. He has his upcoming memoir. Guess what it's called?
Engage.
Oh, so close. He was Making It So.
Ah.
Yeah, that's right. So he was basically talking about the fact that even though I didn't realize this, apparently he got convinced he had to be kind of pushed to do the Picard TV series. I didn't realize that. But what apparently he's saying now is that he's still trying to push for Paramount to do a Picard movie off the back of not continuing on from Next Generation, but continuing on from the Picard TV series.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a successful campaign that he's carrying out.
Did you like the Picard TV series?
Now I haven't watched the whole thing, I'll be honest. It does feel, it's more in that, I suppose, Discovery vein than it is Strange New Worlds or Lower Decks or like the classic Star Trek, I suppose. So it is that kind of intense drama, and it's kind of got more of a kind of quiet energy to it. And I think there's definitely a place for that, and I do like enjoy his performance. Now, obviously, I haven't continued watching it, so it may kind of decline in quality. I don't know. But like, I'd say like, yeah, why not give him a movie? Like, they're doing millions of Star Trek things at the moment. Like, give him a if he's got a decent story for it, and he says he wants Jonathan Frakes to direct it, and he's talked to Brent Spiner and LeVar Burton, and apparently they're all on board. Yeah, why not? I don't see any harm in it.
It's just, I would prefer a little bit more action. What he did in Star Trek Generations and stuff like that, and we're not going to get that. Like we were saying last week with Indiana Jones, it's just elder abuse at this stage, where these 80-year-old men are getting the crap beaten out of them. So yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the TV series. And, I just think the character should just slowly go into the night. Just leave him be. He's already dead. What
if it was like a young Picard movie? What if this is like
a young Picard movie?
First Command Picard.
Only if Michael Rosenbaum can play him.
Okay, I'd be up for that. How old is Michael Rosenbaum now?
Well, when I say young, I mean at the age where he would be getting his first captain's position, which I assume wasn't the Enterprise.
Yeah. I'd say that would be a good shout because my initial thought was because obviously like Tom Hardy starred alongside him in Star Trek Nemesis playing. Was it? He was playing a clone of him.
He was playing a clone of him, but I can't see Tom Hardy going. I'm Tom.
I want like Bane-sized Tom Hardy playing a younger guy, just bursting out of his.
Tom Hardy will only star in things where he's unintelligible.
I love it.
Where he has to put on some kind of ridiculous accent, which is a shame because when you look at him in Inception, he was my favorite part of Inception. You know?
Oh yeah. So suave with his
incredibly
big
suave
collars.
Yeah.
So we're split on that. I would happily see a jacked young movie when you can obviously nothing at all.
Yeah.
Patrick, tell me about Knights of the Old Republic,
right,
and the reboot that might have been.
Right. Well, it's still in the cards. They're still in the studio working on it. Did you play Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2?
If you have no other questions about it, then yes. No, okay. I didn't. I was at that time. I was much more into like not turn-based combat. Basically, anything that wasn't turn-based combat. I basically played Pokemon for my entire life, and then I moved on to different games, and I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back.
Okay. Well, some of my favorite games. Lots of cool lore in it. Set back in the Old Republic times in the Star Wars universe, but yeah, they announced a remake of it, not a reboot,
like a remaster.
Yeah, well, sort of, somewhere between a remaster and a remake. So technically a reboot, I suppose, but it's a bit of a grey area because I don't think they were going to change any of the main story beats. They were just going to update the combat and all that.
So would that be similar? Sorry to cut across you. Would that be similar to Demon Souls for the PS5, where they basically rebuilt it from the ground up?
Yeah, that's my understanding. But it was the trailer was recently delisted from the Sony site. Sony PlayStation have paid for exclusivity, obviously. So it's been delisted now. After I put this piece of news on our sheet last night, it was announced that it's because the rights for the soundtrack have lapsed, and they can't use the soundtrack that's in the trailer. Now, that just brings up even more concern. Sony are trying to pivot it as, don't worry, it's just because the rights for the soundtrack lapse, and then it's like, okay, that doesn't sound good. Why is this been allowed to happen? So that's a big bucket of bummer balls because I was kind of looking forward to this. It was released on the Switch as not a remaster or anything, just slightly upgraded. But that has its own controversy around it, where there's a particular piece of DLC that you need that fixes a lot of issues. That actually fixes a whole quest line, and that's not coming to the Switch, so people are obviously very angry about that. So the Knights of the Old Republic, fortunately, the last couple of weeks have been getting a real kicking, you know.
Yeah. And is there if the remaster doesn't happen? Let's say the remaster doesn't happen, but I want to start playing Knights of the Old Republic. Do you think it would hold up today?
It holds up. I played it last year again. So
okay.
No, it's very good. I'd recommend it.
I also was thinking that at the time, instead of playing Knights of the Old Republic, I think I was on like my 500th play of Jedi Academy, which was just a game I burnt the disc on it. I played so much, and that was more at the time like what I wanted out of Star Wars game, where I could just like fling a lightsaber around and just be a lunatic.
Yeah. And then in other gaming news, Hellboy Web of Word has been pushed back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I referenced that earlier when I was talking about Michael Gambon dying.
I know.
Let's talk about it.
And I was like, let's talk about that, and then you continued on.
I did, yeah. So yeah, Hellboy Web of Weird. I think it's Web
Word.
of Weird. Is the web? It's Word. Is it Word?
Yeah, they actually say it in the trailer.
Oh,
as Word.
so are you telling me the one trailer where they do say the name of the thing? I just completely missed them saying it.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
No, it's definitely Web of Word. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So this was going to be coming out October 4th. It's now coming out October 18th. They released a statement, which they release with any game where they're pushing back the release date. We're basically saying we want to make sure it's the best experience for the gamers, so we're taking extra time to make that happen. And at this point, that could either be the truth or not. It doesn't really much matter. It's the I'm leaving because of creative differences of the gaming world. So like, I really like the look of the game. Like, I like the cell shading. I like how it's pretty faithful to the comics and that kind of Mignola artwork. So I'm not too worried about this. Like, I'm happy to wait the extra 2 weeks to get this when it comes out.
Yeah, no, it wasn't on my radar to play because it's coming out in the middle of a very busy season of video games. We'll have Assassin's Creed Mirage coming out at the beginning of October. We have Spider-Man 2 coming out at the end. We have Super Mario Wonder coming out in the middle of that. And there's a few other things on my radar. So it was going to be something I was going to play next year anyway. So
yeah.
That's fine. Just while we're still on the topic of video games, I have been playing the new Cyberpunk 2077 patch. I haven't gone to the DLC yet, but it's very good.
The patch
completely reworks everything. So I actually made the decision to start a new character. So it's very good. It's fixed a lot of the issues that I had with it, except for the driving. The driving is still atrocious. Absolutely.
That's how I mean. When you're driving in the game, what view do you pick? Because I always go third person, so I'm outside of the car.
So I don't know if I have a setting wrong, but if I'm third person in the car, it's not following behind. The camera doesn't follow behind the car. So if I turn right, I'm now looking at the right hand side of the car, and I have to manually move the camera over. Oh,
well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's two joystick control.
Yeah, but I don't want that.
Oh.
I want the Grand Theft Auto. I want the Need for Speed. I want the you turn right, the camera pivots around, and it always has your bumper in view. So I'm
actually thinking back now. Like, I'm actually can't remember if that's the case or not, and maybe it's just your version wasn't working properly. But clearly it's not. It's clearly it's not an issue because it wasn't bitched in the back.
Yeah, but I really don't like it. So I've ended up driving first person within the car, and the field of view within that car is shockingly bad. There's blind spots everywhere, and I'm crashing into everything. So,
I don't know how anyone does it from that view. Like, it's bonkers.
Well, the other view was making me sick. Like, I was physically feeling sick playing that way, because what I was expecting to see wasn't happening on screen.
Yeah.
So it was like it was a motion sickness kind of. The horizon doesn't match what my belly is telling me is happening.
Neither.
You know.
Yeah, and weirdly, that game is a real saga of just. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, even the fact that the DLC is coming out is kind of bonkers to me. Like, the fact that it's still alive, this thing that kind of came crawling onto people's consoles, just like dragging its body. Oh, the fact that it's still kind of around is kind of amazing to me in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing before we move off the video game stuff is spoilers for Spider-Man 2 are unfortunately out in the wild. So,
oh no,
Sam, I know this doesn't really affect you. You're not on the social medias, but anyone who is on social media, be very careful. People are spoiling it like crazy.
Are these kind of images that are being spoiled, or is it stories?
Entire story beats. Someone has people have actually played all the way through the game and are spoiling it for people.
That's no good. And like, I'm sure there are people who want that. Like, I'm sure there are people who just want the spoilers. Like, you know, but
those are the type of people we do not want to talk to.
Either in person or on social media. Don't want anything to do with them. But yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Like, because the Spider-Man games have had really strong story beats. Like,
Yes.
like the narrative of them has been one of the big selling points for me at least. So like, I can see why that's happening. I could like, the only thing I could think is that people must be very excited about the storylines that they are spoiling it like this. Either that or they're just monsters.
Yeah, some people are just dicks, you know. And they want to spoil things for other people.
Yeah, that's fair. And that is exactly what we will be doing with No One Will Save You.
Oh, what a
self-slam. Before we get into that, though, I just want to ask, did you watch the first episode of Amazon Prime's Gen V?
No, I haven't watched it yet. Because I realised the other day I didn't watch the final episode of The Boys for last season.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'll watch that first and then I'll catch up with Gen V. But you've watched it. Tell me.
Well, I don't want to go. I don't want to go into too much on it. Like we can always talk about it next week when we've both. Well, by that point, the second episode will have come out as well, so we can have a look at that as well. Actually, I don't know if episode 2 and 3 are coming out next week, but I'm not sure. Anyway, it is really good. It's very much The Boys in tone, but it's obviously set in Godolphin University. It's kind of loosely based on the We Gotta Go Now arc from the comics, but just very, very loosely, it seems. But like, everyone in it is really good. Ted Levine's in it. He's great. And there seems like there's going to be a load of cameos from the Boys series. So yeah, a good first episode as far as I'm concerned.
So the first 3 episodes are up.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that I watched the first episode, it got to the credits, I paused it and went off to do other things and didn't check to see if there were any other episodes.
Yeah, so yesterday God You dropped, then First Day, then #ThinkBrink, and then the next episode is Friday.
Okay, can we just cut out all that audio?
No, it's gold. It's gold.
Patrick, I watched the first episode.
No, we're not doing that.
Watch the other 2.
We're not doing that. But you enjoyed it, and anyway, that's
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we can, if we we'll talk about that next week when when those next 2 episodes have finally dropped.
Yeah. Get your thumb in your arses, Amazon. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. First episode launched on its own, ridiculous. Yeah. But like, let's move off that embarrassing moment for me and check in on No One Will Save You. So, just a
warning to everyone: this is going to be a full spoiler.
It's going to be fairly spoilery for sure. Yeah. So yeah.
We'll start off first by saying I really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5 for me. Sam.
Yep. Again, yep. It'll be a 5 out of 5. Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so from this point on, it'll be spoilers. So if you don't want to hear those, bugger off. Now's the time.
And we would. That's very aggressive. But I would 100% recommend, like with this movie, like go in knowing as little as possible, because it really kind of adds to the energy of the movie for sure, going in with as little information as possible. And like the good thing is, like, the trailer didn't give too much away, like other than the main beats of the fact that it's essentially like a home invasion, but it's aliens invading. Mm-hmm. Like that's really all it kind of gives away, and it gives you a look at the aliens themselves and stuff. But like, it's a rich enough story, I think, that doesn't take away too much of the enjoyment and the, not so much the twists or anything like that, but just the development of the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get pretty spoiler from here on out. I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that it was directed by Brian Duffield, who I looked into it after I watched it. I completely didn't realize that he wrote Underwater, which was I'm a big fan of that movie. So it's a Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, we were talking about it last week.
Yeah, exactly. The horror movie where she's underwater and there's like basically evil mermaids. I don't think that's unfair to say.
Cthulhu-esque.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That was another one that we would recommend, knowing as little as possible. So he wrote Love and Monsters. He wrote Underwater. He wrote The Babysitter. He wrote Jane Got a Gun. He's really involved in the Skull Island anime show that's currently on Netflix. So he wrote for it, and I think he developed it as well. And then this is his second movie that he's directed. He also directed Spontaneous, which I haven't actually seen.
That's the teen rom-com where people spontaneously explode, is it?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Pretty good. Okay, and the I guess like not the only actor in this, but the only main actor in it is Caitlin Dever, who was in Justified, and she was in the movie Booksmart, and she was also in the popular Tim Allen sitcom Last Man Standing. Yeah. I don't know why I mentioned that.
Yeah.
I mainly know her from Booksmart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the gist of this movie is you've got Caitlin Dever as Bryn. She lives in a house that can only be described as like Etsy come to life. Like it's all fabrics and textiles and old school cameras and all this kind of stuff.
With a miniature representation of the town in her living room.
Yes.
And that there's a bit of symbolism behind that town that we see when we come later on in the movie, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, she's exiled from the rest of the town, and you don't know why at the beginning, but it slowly comes across what happened in her past to cause her to have this exiled lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of, as you say, it's kind of suggested and developed over time. And like even before the reveal at the end of the movie of what actually happened, you get a good sense of, you kind of assume about what happened. Maybe by the fact of how much everyone absolutely hates her. Like, because you get like it's what I really like about this movie is that it is the perfect demonstration of show don't tell. Like there's only like what 5 words in the movie. It's like a 90-minute movie, but it's all just widening the view and just adding in little drops of information in a way that is just not
it's not heavy-handed. It's very
that's exactly
light touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And she is, as we say, she is clearly like a seamstress of sorts. Like she has, I'm assuming, an Etsy shop where she makes dresses for people and posts them over to them. And she also seems to get phone calls from people telling her that she's a monster and things like that. So she just kind of deals with that. And yeah, she just lives this very kind of isolated life. And then suddenly, wouldn't you know it, Patrick, she does get a visitor. But it's a bloody alien in the middle of the night.
It is. It's a Paul-looking alien.
It is absolutely a Paul-looking alien. That was actually an interesting thing about it. So it's got this real, like, even though it's clearly set in like the modern day, it's got a real like 1950s aesthetic. Not just like the house that she's in and all like the retro stuff that she has in the house, like her record player and her kind of old Polaroid instant camera and stuff. But then also you have these kind of classic grey aliens kind of waddling around.
But
and like,
was it set in modern times?
Yeah.
How do we know that?
Because of the gravestones. So not to go into it. So like, you see like the year that her mum died, and you see her best friend also died, and you find out that happened 10 years ago. And on her grave, which she goes to visit, it says 2012.
Yeah, because there's no mobile phones in this. There's no. But there is a flat screen TV, so I do apologize. Yeah.
But like, you could be excused from realizing that, because it is, as you say, like it's very it's very well done with like this with the setting and the design of like the house and the neighborhood. Like it's very isolated and it's very quaint and you know, out in the sticks, as we'd say. But so she gets visited by this alien who's just like ransacking her house, and she ends up killing the alien like in a pretty not a particularly gory death, but like she ends up like ramming a piece of the
clock tower from the church or something, from the miniature set. Yeah. It felt very slapstick. It felt very strange. You know, when I was watching it, tonally compared to the rest of the film, it was a bit odd.
It felt a bit goofy for sure. Yeah,
especially because it took a while for the alien to actually die. He had this surprised look on his face.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, you've killed me.
It was a real weird moment, because it went from so like scary and so like intense just to this weird like, oh, I guess that's over then. You just now have an alien corpse in your house. But like you see that these aliens are telekinetic, so they are moving things around. Like they seem to have an impact on electricity.
Yeah, very selectively telekinetic though.
How do you mean?
If you had the ability to move things around with your mind, I think some of the stuff that they were doing, they only seem to use it when it furthered the plot a bit. So
I see what you mean.
There's a bit where she's sneaking up on the alien and then he twitches his hand and throws her through a wall. Whereas before she was beating the crap out of the aliens. Like, why aren't you using your telekinesis there? Or is there something wrong with you you're a little tiny alien? Can you not do telekinesis? Or
well, I was thinking about that. Like, my assumption is it must just be like a muscle. In that, and this is me kind of giving excuses to the movie, but like I could believe that like telekinesis is not an easy thing to do. Some people are really good at it, and some people aren't as good at it, and you know it takes energy to do it. So it may be something that they don't use all the time.
Maybe the ones who are not good at it should stay on the ship. Huh?
If you're not going to put in the effort to practice your telekinesis, you can't go out and play on Earth. But like, I think one of the things I appreciated about it was that all the aliens, while they are clearly like from the same planet or whatever, but they all look a bit different, and they're all very different sizes. And there are ones that are like big old cranky giraffes, and like that are like human sized, and ones that are more like little smaller creatures.
Yeah, the way I looked at that was very much like an ant colony, you know, where.
Yes,
they're specialised for different jobs. Why those really tall ones are what they're?
Well, they don't seem to be very good at anything.
Well, apparently they can signal to the ship by contorting their body.
Yes, they can signal to the very kind of 50s style UFOs that they have in this. But yeah, like the big ones, like they're just like climbing on top of houses and just falling off of them because they're really like baby deers learning to walk in a bit. But like they have like the aesthetic is really interesting, and it's like, so she kills this alien, and then she's basically the next day none of the electricity works, her car doesn't work or anything, so she rides a bike into town, and you really get a sense of like nobody likes her, like, and then you get more of an idea that this friend of hers who died,
that it was her fault.
Yeah, that it was her fault. She's writing like letters to her friend, that you find she doesn't mail them or anything. She just writes them as some kind of therapy. And then when she goes to the police station to presumably turn herself in for alien murder, and then she sees her friend Maud's parents, and the mum just straight up spits in her face. Like, it's full on.
It is, and that is. I looked it up after the movie. That would be considered assault in America. So she had every right.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So she had every right to press charges there. With seeing as the wife, the mother of Maud was also the wife of the sheriff. That might be a tricky situation.
Yeah, and like the fact that they're in a police station, she spits in her face and walks off. The dad walks off with her, and then the other policemen are just like, "Yeah, what do you want?
Get out of here!
Get out of here!" And then my favorite, again, like it kind of seems like a goofy moment. The fact that she sees a bus and she thinks, "Oh yeah, I can just leave." And she gets on the bus and just leaves. And I like the idea that that's the first time, because she's clearly like hated by this town. But I like the idea that she never thought to leave. She sees a bus and she's like, "Oh, I could have left like 10 years ago. Why did I never think of this?"
But what I don't understand is why she had to put on a hat and sunglasses to get onto the bus. Like she was in incognito.
Yeah, like it's a weird one, because I guess like one thought was like, oh, because they'd recognize her, and then they wouldn't let her leave. But surely they'd see like, oh, you're leaving town? Great, get on. Like, don't even bother paying for a ticket. Yeah. Like, I'll cover you.
But that bus journey is a pivotal part of the movie, because then we learn that the aliens can actually take over human bodies.
Yeah, and this is the point at which I was like, do these aliens have too many powers? Because we've already seen that they're very agile. They have weird, freaky feet that are just like 4 toes on a stick. They have telekinesis. We find out later on that they have like other psychic powers and all this kind of stuff. But now they're also like, they can take over people's bodies. It's like it's kind of a lot. It's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but they are weak to small pieces of wood. You know?
There's a particular point, a soft bit in their head where they just...
And fire. They don't like fire either. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But then who does? Who does like fire?
Caveman.
So she runs away from the bus because basically all the people on the bus, bar the bus driver, had been taken over. And they basically got like these almost like parasites that can just be seen on their throat, underneath their throat skin. I
don't like that word, throat skin.
Throat skin, yeah. Sorry, neck sack.
Oh.
The larynx tube.
You're being foul. You're being foul right now.
Sorry about that. And then she decides that she's going to stay and, I guess, fight them. It was almost like a weird, like, Predator moment where she starts like setting her house up.
It was more Home Alone I was thinking of.
Yeah, well, it was very Home Alone, but her plan was to cover, because the door for her house had been telekinesis off its hinges. So she said, well, I'll put a sofa in front of that, and then I'll nail a blanket, one of my many textured quilts, to the top of the door. So then I'm completely protected. And then she like lights a load of lamps and boils a load of water. And then she sees that the blanket is being removed from the outside, and she seems very surprised that her impenetrable fortress has been broken down.
Yeah, it was a bit. I don't know the thought process behind the blanket, but maybe there wasn't any. Maybe she's just a bit stupid. And then we're at the climax now. She's now killed 2 more of these aliens. She's killed these small, wriggling, 2-foot tall aliens. She's killed the giant giraffe ones that you were talking about.
Yeah,
and she's running through the woods. She's hell for leather, getting out of there in the dark. Yeah, and she's been stabbed. She's bleeding. She's in a bad shape. You know,
she's in a bad shape, and it is at this point in the movie where I'm like, is she the bad guy in this? Because she is murdering aliens left and right.
I did have the same thought. I was like, what if these aliens are just there to say hello?
Well, what I was trying to figure out was, because obviously they escalated things, like they started attacking, but I was wondering, is that a result of her murdering one of them?
Yeah.
because there's obviously like there's the parallel in the movie, because what you find out is that when she was a kid, she got into a fight with her friend Maud. She wailed on her with a rock in a very similar way to the way she killed the alien. And her friend Maud died, and basically everyone in the town hates her for it.
Yeah.
Because she killed the chief of police's, I guess, 12-year-old daughter or that kind of age.
Yeah, she was 12.
Yeah. So, like, and then there's, you see it as just like, oh, it was this accidental thing that happened. But then there's the parallel that she does the exact same thing with the aliens, where she sees an alien, kills the alien, and now all the aliens hate her because she's killed one of them. She just can't catch a break. But then her first instinct to murder is clearly not helping with her social skills.
Yeah. And we do see that through the movie. Well, at the beginning of the movie, when the first time she goes into town, she tries waving at people, and they're obviously not having any of it. But she's it's really driven home how despised she is. Now, the only part of the movie where there was actually talking was a dream sequence with a grown-up Maud, and she finally gets to say, "I'm sorry."
Yes.
But at the same time, she's being taken over by one of these alien parasites in her throat sac.
Yes, absolutely. And I was actually wondering about this. Did you ever wonder at any point in the film if the parasites were the actual, like, invading body? Like, I actually wondered if the parasites had also taken over, like, the grey aliens, and they were just using them as a means of travel to get to where they wanted to go. Do you know what I mean?
It's an interesting theory. I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah. I think I'm probably wrong, because it seems that these
there are no wrong answers here.
There's no wrong answers in brainstorming, but it does seem like they're literally just like remote control devices that they use. But yeah, it brings her into this fantasy world, and I can assume that this is just a way of keeping them happy, almost like a Matrix style. We'll give you everything you want in your brain in this weird hallucination, so we can just get you to do what we want. But then she, as you say, like, she says, "I'm sorry," and then she puts her hand fully in her mouth and rips out the parasite, and then we find out that the aliens have another power, which is making clones.
Yeah, well, I don't think that was that bit I didn't really understand.
So there's this bit where the parasite, basically the parasite is kind of floating, and then it builds another Bryn around it, and then they have like a little fight. It got to this point in the movie where I felt like it was maybe short of runtime, so they needed to add in a couple of bits, but it seemed like a random inclusion. It didn't seem like it was really necessary for there to be a clone of her, and then for that clone to stab her, and then for her to stab the clone.
Yeah, there's just stabbing all over the place. And then they're running through the woods. She's running through the woods. She's bleeding, and the aliens finally catch up with her, and they replay. They mind meld with her and replay what happened between her and Maud, and that seems to ingratiate her to the aliens. They go, "Oh, I can relate to this person." This poor,
they have that
girl.
They have this kind of obviously alien language conversation with their weird vibrating throats, which is really weird to see. And they have this conversation. I don't know if they're just deciding, like, I don't want anything to do with this girl. Like, she's a murderer.
Yeah.
We'll just leave. And they decide that even though they are putting their parasites in everyone else, seemingly, I guess, on Earth, they decide that they'll just let her be, and
now she has
live
friends.
without her. And now she has friends, because when you get to the end of the movie and she walks out to her house, and she walks out of her house, and there's people there waving at her, and they all like her, and she has this dance sequence with everyone based on the dance steps that she's learning at the start of the movie, and it's very bizarre, and it's that weird kind of ending where you're like, this isn't a happy ending, but it's also not a sad ending. It's just a very strange ending.
Well, the way I interpreted the ending was she's basically back where she began, which was she has the toy model of the town.
Yes.
That was her only real interaction with the town.
Yeah.
These people are now the exact same thing. It's just a facsimile of what the town was, and these people are puppets.
Yes.
So she's back where she was, but she's happier now because she gets to dance with the dreamy guy who lives next door, and potentially have a lesbian relationship with another girl, and
I think that was just kind of loosely implied because they were dancing together. But like, it does make you wonder. So the aliens put the parasites into the people, and then are they just docile? I guess can they just be controlled to do whatever? And if so, like what are they? What's their end game? Like, are they just?
The feeling I got from it, based off that dance sequence and everything, was that it's very much like, oh my god, what was the Keanu Reeves movie? The
Daily After Still?
Yes, yeah. Where I know it's based off an original movie. It's just Keanu Reeves was the easiest way to get you to provide the name.
Yes, it was. That's true.
Basically, my feeling is they've come to Earth to not so much enslave the population, but to make them very docile, make them very just change their behavior.
Yeah.
And whether that's to make the world better so that the world will continue on, regardless of the fact that these people no longer have free will, or that they could be potentially some kind of slave workforce for the aliens, which wouldn't make a huge amount of sense because they seem to have technology far beyond anything that they would require these people to do anything. These people who can barely pick their noses without hurting themselves, So,
maybe it's they just want like the resources on the planet. Maybe that's it, and they just want everyone to just stay out of their way.
There's easier ways to get resources. There's other planets with resources without people living on them.
Or maybe they need like a rest stop between galaxies, so they need a planet where people could just like take a break and.
This is a lovely planet you have. We would like to turn it into our toilet.
Yeah. But like, I'm wondering like how long will it work out for Bryn, like living in this toy town basically? Because I guess that depends on like the aliens' endgame. Like, are they just going to leave her there to have a lovely life until they need all the people for something else, or are they just maybe they live for hundreds of years and they're like, we can wait 50 years until she passes away. I do feel that what they've done is just pacify the population. Rather than enslavement or anything like that. So as far as they're concerned, as long as the people aren't doing anything naughty, they'll leave it. And there's also the implication as well that there's other lunatics like Bryn who's been out murdering aliens, and then the aliens have become friends to them and gone, you're all right. Yeah.
I like you.
Yeah. But I think it was a good shout to just like limit the audience's view to the town.
Yeah.
Because then you just have no idea. Maybe it's just the town, maybe it's the whole.
Well, you can see the town and you can see spaceships in the background.
That's true.
Over other towns. So
that's true.
Yeah. Look, it was left to your own interpretation at the end, and I think that was a good way to go because
absolutely
we've gotten a good 20 minutes content out of that. But
thank you, Brian Duffield.
Thank you. There was an interesting interview with him where they asked what his inspiration for the movie was, and he said, "Well, I really wanted just to make a musical, so the only way I could think of doing that." Yeah, he was obviously joking, but he's like, the only way I could think of doing that was by doing an entire alien invasion movie and then having a bit of a song and dance at the end.
There is that bizarre moment at the end, which is quite like a musical, where Rin just stares down the camera and is like smiling and dancing.
Yeah.
But that is very much like a musical movie thing to do, where she's kind of like singing out to the audience. Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah. No, it was very good. I'm glad I watched it. It was a nice little sleeper movie that came out of nowhere, and I was quite enamored with it. And I'll definitely be watching it next Halloween.
Oh yeah, and it's definitely like a good Halloween movie. And I think that the other thing I like about it as a movie, as well as a Halloween movie, is you can't really like be on your phone while you're watching it, because there's no dialogue that you can kind of depend on while you're looking at another screen. You have to be paying attention to everything that's going on.
I'm never on my phone when I watch a movie. We're very different people.
Well, I actually, like, I couldn't be on my phone while I was watching this movie because I was watching it on my phone. But yeah, it's a habit that I am trying to train myself out of, because I have been doing it recently, and I don't like that I do it.
Yeah. You're gross.
I am. I'm a disgusting excuse for a human being. And on that note, I think it's time that we can probably wrap things up here, unless there's anything else you'd like to add in, Patrick.
No. All good from my side. But thanks for taking the time to go through that film, because it was an interesting one. I really wanted to have a discussion with it about it. And it's unfortunately just brought up more questions.
Well, I know what you mean, but like, I sincerely hope that they leave this film alone and like don't talk about any sequel nonsense with it. But I think like it's fairly safe.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed from that. Yeah.
Great. That's
well,
it for
Patrick,
me.
Would you like to let everyone know how they can get in touch with us?
Yes, you can. You can find us on balrogsblasters.com, which is our website. There's a couple of articles up there about how we started the podcast and a few different things there. And you can also subscribe to our podcast there. We're obviously on all of the different podcasting websites. There is a change to Google Podcasts happening at the end of the year, so we'll be moving over to Google Music for that. But hopefully that'll be a seamless transition. But if not, you'll be able to find us some way. And then just follow us on Instagram if you're looking for the latest news on what we're doing. And we have a Facebook group as well, Balrogs Blasters. Basically, if you search Balrogs Blasters, you'll find us somewhere. Yeah,
you'll find something somewhere that we are doing.
Yeah, or you'll find someone on Reddit saying who's stronger, a Balrog
or a blaster.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that finishes things up for this week. Thank you very much, Patrick, and
thank you, sir.
We will catch you guys next week.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye.